Hey everyone, this is the second and final video in which we're taking a look at modern game design and how that's affecting our playability and gameplay experiences. So a few days ago, I discussed how modern game design is destroying replayability in games, and where the amount of time required to see a game through these days is becoming so vast that it's discouraging many people, including myself, from going back and replaying any games that release these days. But today we're going to be discussing how the vast majority of gamers aren't actually completing their games. And by this, I mean story-based content. Because multiplayer is infinite, and even if you unlock all the items in a multiplayer game, it doesn't end. Like, you can still play it. Whereas in single player, it's a bit more easier to judge because it's got a definitive start point and end point. So I'm the type of person who's extremely task-based, and I've organized my lifestyle around that. So for me, when I start a video game, I typically play it through to completion, and I've always made an effort to do the vast majority of content, like side content, and the only thing I won't chase after are really the collectibles in games. But if there's story content to be had, then I do spend my time typically playing through those. But when I got super serious about playing the vast majority of games, and really it was the start of the 8th generation where I kind of made this point to play as much as I could whenever I could. And during the 7th generation, I was still growing up, and I had to either rely on my parents or birthday gifts to get me a video game. And I had GameFly kind of early on, but then when I finally got a job and started working, it became much more common for me to purchase games and actually play through them. But I've always considered that I'm not finished with the game until I see the credits roll. That once the credits roll, that's when I know I can move forward and the game is, quote, complete. I typically don't explore endgame content, and when I beat a game, I typically take a few days to let the sort of entire experience kind of sit around in my brain and determine how valuable it was for me or not. But it's extremely rare of me to actually quit on a game, and I think that there was only 5 or 6 games last generation that I actually did quit on because basically they were horrendous and terrible experiences, or I was just so bored that I couldn't suffer through it any longer. But anyways, I bring that up because I think it's fair to first have you guys sort of understand the perspective I'm coming at this topic from. Not everyone who plays a game is playing it with the intention of wanting to fully experience a narrative and complete it. Some are just going in there for the fun and for a quick time waster, and I just happen to take a bit more of a serious route is basically what I'm getting at. So for me, I'm the exception to the rule here in terms of the actual approach to playing video games, and I completely understand that. But I saw an article a few days ago, and that was actually published a few years ago, and it was discussing this very same topic. And they were bringing up lots of games from sort of back early this generation, but I wanted to take a look at some of the most popular games that have come out and also see, with the millions of copies that these games sold, have consumers actually experienced them in its entirety. And the cool thing is that you can actually check this out for yourself these days. Trophies and achievements now actually have rarity attached to them, and they tell you explicitly the percentage of people who've actually unlocked that specific trophy or achievement. And most games have a trophy or achievement when you actually complete the main narrative. And so I wanted to share with you guys a few games that are super popular, and some that are kind of smaller indie style games as well. And the reason I picked these games is because everyone has either played them or knows of them, like they're games that you've heard of. So I want to start off first with Spider-Man 2018. This is the fastest and I believe best-selling game on PS4. I think it sold somewhere within 20 million copies, although the exact number, one of you guys in the comments can correct me. So only 50% of all players actually beat this game, according to the trophies. Now, keep in mind that trophies don't register on your PSN account until you've actually started the game. So everyone who has Spider-Man 2018 listed on their trophies, they had to have put in the disc or start the application on their PS4 Pro or PS5 or whatever the case may be. So half of all people who've played Spider-Man 2018 have beaten it. That's actually a significantly good metric considering the other games. But Spider-Man 2018 is also a long game, and you guys may want to know something about a more smaller game. How about an older indie title like Octodad? It's been out for 7 years, I think, now, and only 46% of everyone who's played it completed it. Or how about Firewatch, where a staggering 68% of everyone who's played it completed it? That's actually a big jump and falls into the majority there, but that is a much shorter game. How about something that's short but also a AAA video game? Let's look at Resident Evil 3. And we're already back to 48% of people who've played this game have actually beat it. And maybe you want something that everyone has played, like Modern Warfare 2019, for example. Only 14.9% of people on PS4, at least, have completed the game, the main narrative of the game. That is significantly low. I mean, everyone was so happy, right, that Call of Duty finally had a campaign again, and it was going back to its roots. But less than a quarter of all players who've played Modern Warfare 2019 have actually beat the campaign. And it's a pretty short campaign as well. It's not that long. So how about something a little bit more recent then? How about we return to Spider-Man, but this time Miles Morales on PS5, and 53% have actually beaten this game. That's just over half. So that is a significantly shorter game than the 2018 Spider-Man. But keep in mind that this is a PS5 launch title, so we expect to see these numbers also be a little bit higher. But that sort of falls into a comparable range considering, the Spider-Man 2018 game as well. So I'm sitting here, right, and it's hilarious because back in the day, during the 7th generation, a long game was considered like 15 to 20 hours. Like, we were plagued back then with short 6 to 8 hour campaigns, hell, even 4-hour campaigns at times. And just for reference, I took a look at some of the bigger and smaller games from 7th generation, and the numbers are comparable, if not slightly improved. But this past generation, a lot has changed, we have to keep in mind. We've had the rise of free-to-play games, the rise of these looter-shooter cooperative multiplayer games, and multiplayer in its own right has turned into this act of a social gathering where it's fairly common for young kids to actually play games with their friends among the many choices that they had that are both free-to-play as well as just actual payable games. And we have so many options now, and the younger generation are growing up with no frame of reference to gaming before there was ever the internet. Like, if you're 13 years old right now watching this video, your first console was the PS3 or the Xbox 360, or maybe it was the Wii. But online gaming has been with you and around you since birth. I mean, I had to go to my friends to do anything like that. Maybe not when I was 13, but when I was young enough to play games, hell yeah, we had to swap controllers if there were more than a few of us. But that was the big thing, birthday parties with like the PS2 hooked up to this large projection TV, and we played ATV Off-Road Fury, Gran Turismo, among other classics. And the reason I'm bringing up online gaming again is because looking at these metrics, I truly believe that the reason we're seeing this is because gaming is becoming something more, something else for a different audience growing up with it. Like, it's not about storytelling experiences as much as it's about social gatherings and hangout spots and a fun thing to do on the weekends. And trust me, I miss playing Halo 3 with my friends. I miss the old days of jumping into a party on Xbox Live and we all played Modern Warfare 2 and had a blast until midnight, but that's gone. My friends are grown up. I've grown up, and my priorities and time are different now. And if you are on the younger side watching this, all I can say is just value this time you have right now, because gaming may mean something to you right now, but it may become something entirely different when you're older and have more responsibilities. So it's an interesting situation, the world we're in. I think we're seeing that gaming is more popular than ever, but there's a decline in actual completion rates. And honestly, as sort of an open conversation, how do you guys feel about this? Do you guys personally make a point to complete your games? Do you care about narrative and experiencing the entirety of the game? Hell, what does gaming actually mean to you guys? And what do you find yourself doing these days with video games? Just let me know in the comments. Hope you guys all have a fantastic day, and thank you all for watching. I will see you later.